calibrated character.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then sometimes it's like, no, this is lame.
Yeah, like Jaehaerys, who I don't know what George's intent was behind Jaehaerys.
I mean, this is a whole. I am not in the mood to be generous with Martin anymore.
Fair enough.
I don't buy for a second that he isn't full on like, oh, this guy's the best. And it's just gross and because like
could be that George thinks that this man is a good king and he failed miserably in kind of the Doylist sense.
Yes, no, I mean,
his intention was one thing and he ended up failing miserably.
Yeah, exactly. That's where the Martin should be critiqued. And I think that I think that's true because Martin probably has it somewhere in the, Martin has it in his head probably that like being a good king or being a good ruler means not being a good person, and that's just that's a very, we're increasingly learning that's a very problematic thing to think in our modern day.
Yeah. Well, I kind of even think maybe he just doesn't realize that Jaehaerys is a bad person.
Well, that's the part. Yeah, exactly. Right. That's the other thing of it, where it's like he doesn't get how bad this guy is.
Yeah, where it's. 1 second. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
My apologies.
Tis K.
Sorry, my headphones went out for a second. I apologize.
Tis K.
Yeah. So I think also it'd just be a slight problem with Mr. Martin because he thinks that Jaehaerys is smart when in reality Jaehaerys is kind of stupid.
Yeah.
I watched John Greenwood's video and he's like, Jaehaerys starts out by aggressively trying to kill his Kingsguard. Like just
that to
punishing
me,
people.
That to me
was this magnanimous kid. Like a few seconds later, and it's like,
see to me,
Is it a deliberate contradiction or just George being sloppy? So
I think I might have even talked about this before with you guys about that episode with the Kingsguard, because like that to me is like a huge what's going on here?
Breach of contract.
It's how do I put this? I like to say that Jaehaerys is like the seed that created Ares, right? He's like the root. He's like the root cause. If I was doing a root cause analysis on Ares,
he's the guy. He's the guy who basically canonized the idea that Targaryens are god kings.
Exactly, right? Like he is like people like often like can try to like do. Are we live?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this
is exactly the way to do this, because I mean, like Jaehaerys is way more interesting than like the Dornish, which is just like being able to be like fake racist against like fake white people who are not white.
Yeah.
Right.
As well as the fact that like there are people justifying the idea that the Dornish are perfectly justified in what they're doing so long because Aegon is a conqueror.
Yes. No, we're gonna go into that in a second. We will, because that's the premise of this whole thing. I get it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, to give you guys a teaser to start, like basically we're going to be going into the idea that going to be going over the idea that the idea of having an Aegon's Conquest movie from the Dornish is a terrible idea.
No, it's a garbage idea.
Yeah, because it's I'm like, and we're going to be watching a video of what I want from Aegon's Conquest that does go into this, and I like this guy's channel. I think that this guy is great. He did an excellent Jon Snow and Catelyn Stark and Ned Stark video, and he's done great videos. I just think that this particular idea I don't think he read Fire and Blood very carefully with Aegon's conquest. And the reason why I say that is because if you do a side-by-side comparison of the Dornish during this time period, and every villain from A Song of Ice and Fire, they are doing pretty much exactly the same thing as Ramsay, the Bloody Mummers, Tywin, the Mountain, and Walder Frey. Almost 1-to-1. And that's what we're going to be going over later.
Oh, yes, we will. But to wrap up this point, believe me, they are already something even worse than all that. And we'll say, and I'll save that for later.
But let's keep going on ragging on how George screwed up. Either George screwed up massively with Jaehaerys or accidentally created one of the most evil tyrants.
No, because for real, right? Like Jaehaerys, so the Song of Ice and Fire is always talked about as, understandably, as like a medieval series. Like it's a medieval fantasy series, and then like, we're trying to compare the characters in it to like medieval figures and the kings to medieval kings and whatever, right? And blah, blah, blah.
There's some similarities between Jaehaerys and Louis the Sun King.
That's close, but I think that's actually not even right there. I think that.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, yeah, because that's going too modern. Let's actually go backwards for a second. Jaehaerys for me is best compared to Augustus. And
like Augustus Caesar. Okay, yes, I see. Where he's like the son of God.
It's more than that. So this is like so part of my my resentment for modern politics also couples with like a resentment for classical politics, because
it's way more interesting and it's less like filled with crazy psychopathic children who want to murder everybody on both sides of the aisle.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like classical, the classical, like cynical, like pre-Christian, and there's no nice way to say this, like the the sort of like the late in what we would call late antiquity, right? That era was far more contemptible from like a political standpoint than sometimes it's given credit for, right? What Augustus does, like this is very important. Augustus was a genius administrator. Augustus Caesar is probably the single most successful despotic ruler of all time. He single-handedly created a regime that lasted for, like, depending on how you count it, either 500 years or 1,500 years.
Whether you count the Byzantine Empire or not.
Even if you just counted like the Principate, which lasted about 200 years, right? Because the Roman emperorship went from something called the Principate to something called the Dominate to the Tetrarchy, what's called that, right? But the point here I'm making is that like and to be clear, Augustus was a great administrator. He was absolutely more suited to rule the empire than guys like Mark Antony and other people. Hello.
Yeah, because Mark Antony lost everything because of a lady's coochie.
Well, yes,
I despise Mark Antony with a passion.
Yeah, yes, and he's like the classical. He like Mark Antony, like Mark Antony's like sort of like the classical, like larger than life personality, but he's not suited. But the point here that I'm trying to get to is that Augustus also like murdered the soul of Rome.
Okay.
He killed it. He killed it dead.
Yeah, because he changed it from a republic into an empire, right?
Exactly, and he and more than that, and this was also true. This was happening throughout all of the late Republic. But what was happening was a total subordination of the higher virtues of the society to political expediency. And what you end up happening and all that the Roman Empire is just a managed decline. It's a managed decline. It's why you see over time in the Roman Empire, like this, like the state begins to it
Deteriorates.
it deteriorates. It starts tyrannizing people who it can't reconcile into the regime, and that's kind of true of all states. But this is like there's a reason why they persecuted Christianity, not the other religions, right?
Yeah, because it was kind of a weird, small, all by comparison deal, but it was rapidly spreading. It's why Diocletian specifically targeted Christianity as opposed to anything else in order to restore the prestige of the Roman gods, in order to halt the decline of Rome.
Exactly, and then you have you have what happens with Julian the Apostate, right? You have a like the term would be decadent. Like I think that is the most correct term. You have you have a total you have a total deterioration of personal virtue and civic virtue. And you have also like what's called quietism, which is which is when sort of religious the religiosity of society like kind of like just disappears, and it like it just kind of like people become disinterested in these kind of things, and it leads to unrest, and that's why it leads people to be interested in other religions, which is why Roman religions, the pagan religions, were abandoned, right? Because they weren't doing the things that people need religions to do, true or not, and
they didn't properly facilitate a greater need that the average people was trying to like have a desire for.
Yeah, because it's all about this. Because all there is the state. All there is the glory of the state, and it's transparent, right? The state subordinates the things that should be higher than the state to it, and that's not. That's I said it's supposed to be higher. It's not right. So again, Augustus kills Augustus kills the soul of Rome, right? And again, it takes a long time for that to bear fruit, but it does. I mean. But also doesn't, because by the third and fourth or fifth emperors, like we're talking about like Caligula and Nero, and they're like horrible. So, and to bring it back, right? That's what Jaehaerys does, and he does it in like a small way with the King's Guard, and then he does it like in a big way with the Faith. What he does with the King's Guard is he creates the cult of the Kingsguard. He creates the situation. The thing that like Jamie complains about in like after he finally gets him like after like late in a Feast of Crows or whatever is that
the king.
Exactly.
The king, defend the innocent, obey your father. What happens when the king orders you to massacre the innocent?
Exactly. That the political the neutering of the Kingsguard, right? That's what Jaehaerys does. He does that.
Okay.
Right.
We're basically subsumed into like just the state where they're just the fist of the king.
Exactly. They are the oaths of knighthood, the righteous oaths of knighthood are subordinated to the oath to protect the king. And this is where we get to guard the king, not to judge him. Right? There can be, like that's where it comes from. I mean, and I'm like, I don't know that Martin intended to write it that way, but that's what he wrote. That's what's on the page. That's where it is.
I also think based on how like even just Preston Jacobs going line by line through it, that George doesn't just kind of throws things in for flavor. And admittedly, I think that Preston Jacobs is a bit of an epiphaniac, where he'll see Freudian imagery everywhere in George's stuff to an absurd degree that's a little bit hilarious. But like he sees kind of like every little thing that George does is either a feminist critique, like he sees Ned as benevolent patriarchy. And I'm like,
that's kind of like, I don't know about that kind of stuff. Like that's, I mean, yes, characters like symbolize other things. I mean, like Ned's like embodies benevolent patriarchy insofar as he embodies being just a good man, right? Like, because he's a good man. Because people who are like, this is going to bleed into a whole conversation about like the moral. Like this, I'm telling you right now, this stream is eventually going to turn into like ranting about like the moral nihilism of the Song of Ice and Fire fandom. I'm assuming he's okay. Can you both hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, so that's where that's gonna go. But the whole okay, now he's gone. I'm sure he'll be back because this is stream.
Yeah,
technically, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know how. I'm not sure. This is like, are we in limbo?
I think that one. Well, we're still live. The thing is that it's very possible that that one YouTube commentator that was having a war with Dunn might have found his address and killed him.
It's possible they got him.
Yeah,
consider that.
GG.
They doxed him.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
SWAT.
They found his IP address.
I shouldn't joke about that, but yeah. So I'm sorry, I've been ranting for a little bit. If you have anything to say.
It's more or less the sense that like the most I know about the Dornish overall, and of course like the material we're covering. I'm fairly knowledgeable on the shows, the seasons of like the actual live action television show. However, I'm less so when it comes to the books. I know a handful of stuff, but not enough to hold as much of a conversation compared to you. That's kind of like where my level of knowledge is.
Have you read the books at all?
No.
Okay, that's fine. No, that's perfectly fine.
I don't think I plan to, considering they're not going to get finished.
I can't hold that against you. I mean, like there are things that I say that like should be studied to understand their flaws because their flaws are informative. I put the prequels in that category, and I think there are a lot of good things in the prequels. But yes, I also do. I very much put the prequels in that category because their flaws are so
abundant that you can't help but notice.
It's not even no. It's not that they're abundant. It's that their flaws are like truly like. Again, the word I would use is informative or like they're great like teaching.
Yeah, that's fair because there's enough effort put into what we see in the prequels that even as flaws, you can tell why certain mechanics go wrong, and you can clearly see like a vision of how to properly improve it.
Exactly. Right. Whereas other things are just crap, right? Like
because George is a really good ideas guy, and that's where you see. That's why the prequels are very much have a very passionate fan base. Is because a lot of people really like the ideas involved in the prequels, but in terms of execution, that's when a lot of these prequels fans just resort to the EU to help defend them because you can't resort to the films themselves.
Well, and then the whole thing about the EU is its own whole thing. We don't get into that.
Yeah,
but the point I'm driving at with that is that A Song of Ice and Fire is like the next level above it, where like it's like the books are exceptionally good. I can't emphasize enough how good of a read they are. And they're also and when they're good, they are so good. And I don't just mean in terms of excitement or thrills or intrigue or drama. I mean they actually the moral core of the story, when read properly and engaged with properly and written properly, is so good.
Mm-hmm.
And he just can't seem to pull the trigger. People like one of the favorite, the great mystery is what is causing Martin to not be able to finish. And beyond his probably general procrastination, laziness, it's got to be that he can't reconcile the vision, the moral vision of the story. Because logistical crap is easy to overcome. That can be contrived easily. Easily that can be contrived away. It's because Martin cannot actually say like he cannot present a positive vision of what the world should look like. Like that's why Lucas was able to do what he, and positive just meaning like affirmative, right? Like that's why Lucas was able to do what he could do. That's why Tolkien was able to do what he could do. That's why other authors can do what they can do. They know what they're like. That's why Shakespeare can do what he can do, right? Because they're able to just let it lie out there.
There's an established foundation in which many other ideas essentially are derived from that core like motive and purpose of that story. That's why every other component of that story is as strong as the sum of its parts.
Exactly.
There's a core like moral behind it, their core philosophy behind it that's guiding all these creative decisions.
Exactly, right. And even when it's like quite bleak, even when it's like King Lear, like it works.
And Tolkien has also dived into a lot of dark
of course, Tolkien too.
Subject matter as well.
I also find it I also can say that like Martin is close in terms of the way his story has like evolved and like the place it should be living. Tolkien, Martin lives closer to Shakespeare than he does to Tolkien, which is very amusing to me because obviously Tolkien, didn't like things in Shakespeare. Infamously, like the whole Burnham went to Dunsinane. Him being annoyed at that is very amusing and endearing, but it's also like, man, you're being a fucking nerd. You don't understand what's like. There's a point here that's being made about the woods and like the constancy of nature and the nature of the tyrant in relation to nature. But that's neither here nor there. But like to bring it back, so I want to give our host a chance to come back.
Yeah.
But to make a very long story short, like I would say first of all, like the books are also radically different from the show in like ways that are like beyond just like the necessities of adaptation. Like the Dornish are like almost like completely different. There are characters that are radically different in ways that are both good and bad, mostly bad, or on the show's end, really. There are decisions made for the show that are not excusable insofar as that they're a show, if that makes sense. And there are some that are, right? A lot of them mostly pertain to like certain battles or certain sets and things like that. Oh, thank God he's back.
Yeah, my apologies.
No, that's fine.
That my computer just decided to hate its ass on me.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't. Yeah, no. It's
no.
I thought that one commentator you're waging war against killed you.
No.
Yeah, they gotcha.
Yeah, like
You found your IP address.
Yeah, I found it. Yeah, he found it and decided to murder me. But yeah, no, I put it in the chat to just say, hey, sorry. I was like, I don't know why it decides to arbitrarily do this in the middle of streaming.
It happens. It happens to the best of us.
Aegon's.
Okay.
Yeah.
So unless there's anything else we want to go over.
Well, I think we'll kind of I guess maybe what we should do is actually say what exactly do the Dornish do, like in an objective fashion. So before we get into this, the argument that this guy is going to be putting is that the Dornish, having the Dornish be the Dornish's perspective on the Targaryens would be a better way of doing the conquest, because otherwise the conquest is boring. Because basically it's just Aegon steamrollering across Westeros.
Like what King Edward III did to French territory.
Kind of, yeah. But so, and also like let's kind of compare Aegon himself to, like, he's kind of the boilerplate Alexander the Great type character.
He is. That's unfair to him and Alexander the Great. Like that's a little because Alexander the Great, Alexander of Macedon, right, is so like vivacious in his, and he's so like and not just
life. He wants
exactly, and his personality is
he wants to achieve apotheosis through the deeds that he
conquest.
does.
Yeah, and he's also hitting his and the thing is he has a temperament to match it. He's infamously a volatile person, especially by the end of it.
Yeah,
right.
Aegon is kind of like an enigma type.
Exactly.
Right?
That's exactly the word I couldn't find. Like, yes, he is deliberately inscrutable. He is hard to like. He's like the inverse of Alexander in a lot of ways, and that makes for an interesting character. It doesn't make for an interesting
TV show
person to watch. That's the way to think about that, right?
He's a historical figure, and by virtue of what by virtue of putting him on screen, they have to characterize him somewhat. You can kind of glean a few aspects of his character that he's very pragmatic and utilitarian, and possibly even a little bit autistic in some ways. But he at least has some measure of fair play. Like, I would say that he has at least some measure of fair play based on the fact that later on in the war, after the atrocities we're going to detail that the Dornish perpetuate, on possibly his own family and on his subjects.
Yeah, on their own
he
subjects.
He doesn't. Like his counselors are saying, when the Princess of Dorne, the daughter of the new Prince of Dorne, comes to King's Landing, his hand is saying, "Hey," or his half brother is saying, "Send her back minus a hand." And another one, Lord Oakhart said, when he finds out that she's there, he sends a message: send her to the meanest brothel until every beggar in King's Landing has had their way with her.
Uh-huh.
And while that may seem harsh, considering what happens to the Oakharts, I'm like, I understand why he says that, and that's horrible to say, but look at the Oakhart wedding. The Oakhart wedding is way worse than the Red Wedding.
So okay. So yeah, so we're definitely gonna have to get into this. I don't really remember everything.
I could be wrong.
I don't
think anybody got raped during the Red Wedding, but I could be wrong.
Yeah,
So, I mean, if you're getting like technical, right? So in case you don't know this, you should know this. Having sex under false pretenses is rape. It does count as rape. I'm not talking about just legally. I mean, like just in general, right? That's why if like you're tricked into sleeping with someone, like you are being raped.
Also, like technically, Edmure was raped.
Yeah, think about that. Oh. Now, in fairness, like like Rosalind is also being pressured into it. So like, there's levels here. But
like in Greek mythology, whenever Zeus seduces a woman using like the guise of another person, it doesn't matter if the woman is like consenting to the sex at that moment. She's under the impression that she's having sex with someone else that she likes. She doesn't understand the fact that she's been having sex with Zeus, which means every single all those instances where Zeus is having sex, he's raping these women.
Like Uther Pendragon is a rapist.
Yeah, that's like the classic example, right? Like what he's doing in that scene is rape.
Yeah. Or the weirdness when he sleeps with a girl in the form of an animal, which is just like, what is wrong with the Greeks?
I mean, like that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, but yeah. So I have the book in front of me, Like I have the book. So
we will, and we'll talk about this because I mean I'm most interested in the Dornish. So to me there's the critique of the Dorn, like I said, like the way I'm trying to frame it. There's the critique of the Dornish, and then there's the critique of Martin writing the Dornish, and those are
two separate things. Because I think that those are two interesting conversations to have, and I really want to discuss, especially the second one, because I really want to like try and dive into what the heck was George thinking when he made his Vietnam fan fiction insert. Psychotic nuts.
I mean, it's keeping true to. That's keeping true to real life, considering who the Viet Cong were.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think Martin understands how bad they are. I don't think that.
Yeah, I'm interested to get into that conversation, especially like let's
but let's talk. But we could let's start by talking about like what the actual problem with the Dornish are. I think that's a fair. I think that's correct. I think that's the correct instinct because we have to talk about like what they're doing and how bad it actually is.
Because kind of it starts like I can just summarize a little bit. Like first, it starts with they're burning all their crops, poisoning every well. There's also a neat little thing where every water hole and oasis in Dorne has been poisoned, which is like wow, like that's gonna cause problems later on for the Dornish people themselves. The several were clever tactics, guerrilla war, cutting off a guy's hand, all of their prisoners' hands.
The classic.
The Castellan and stewards, after Dorne was retaken by the Dornish, were allowed only to die after long torment. The Dornish lords had a wager over who could keep their captive alive the longest while dismembering them. That sounds a bit like Ramsay Bolton to me. And all of this is found in page 31 to 39 of Fire and Blood. So if you want to fact check me, go for it. There's also a point where Lord Toland of Ghost Hill sent his champion out to challenge the king to single combat. Aegon accepted and slew the man, only to find out that he killed the simple-minded fool or kill Lord Toland's fool. So it's it's like, okay, that's kind of that's a dick move, like to your fool, if nobody else, to like have him go up against this warrior king.
I think the implication is that
then they take a dragon eating its own tail as their sigil
in his motley colors to honor him.
Yeah.
I think the implication is that the fool like volunteered for it. I think so. I'm gonna I sort of want to give that one a pass in the sense that I don't think they're forcing the guy to do it. However, what I won't.
So the wording is, the exact wording is, further east, Lord Toland of Ghost Hill sent forth his champion to challenge the king to single combat. Aegon accepted and slew the man, only to discover that he had not been Lord Toland's champion, but his fool. Lord Toland himself was gone. That's the exact wording. So...
Does he killed him on Balerion? Or, on Balerion?
No, he kills him with Blackfire.
Okay, I mean, like, okay, so then... All right, so this is part of so this is part of the larger context where the Dornish engage in guerrilla warfare, which is a really, really fancy way to say the martial nobility abrogates its responsibility to the people.
Okay.
So I'm not interested in how the Dornish are bad to their enemies, although we can talk about that later. I'm interested in how the Dornish are bad to the Dornish. Okay,
that's true. Yeah, the Dornish are evil to them, to even themselves. Like the poison of the wells and the burning of crops is going to affect Dorne for a long time.
Like I cannot emphasize this enough. Like, and again, not to talk about this, we'll get more on this later. But like, if there was like a perfect what's like the peak boomer moment in Martin's reign? Like, what is that? Like, what is it? Is it? And like, I think at least one of them has to be like the moment where like an old fat woman hides in a cave, and this is like supposed to represent some kind of like heroic defiance of tyranny, while her people get incinerated. Again, like the Vietnamese,
that's terrible. Oh
like the North, yes, not unlike the Vietnamese. But yes, you can see this problem, right? Like the whole point of the martial aristocracy is that they are the martial aristocracy. They're supposed to go fight. They're supposed to go fight in the wars. That's what makes them what they are. That's how they have their station. Them failing to do that is an abrogation of their feudal obligations. That rhymes.
Mm-hmm.
That's not okay. Okay, and here's the thing. And the next level up on that is that what this does is that it unbounds, it unconstrains, it blows open the space, the war space, the martial space. What are where is war done? Because if it's now no longer being done on the battlefield, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you see a devolution, like if they're not going to fight, then Aegon is going to incinerate the farmland, right? And this happens. This happens constantly. This isn't even the worst example of this. What happens with Darren the First later is far worse. Where
they kill him under a peace banner, and then...
I want to be very clear with this. He beats them. They surrender. They sign the treaty. Then they kick out the armies. Then they kill him under a peace banner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Look,
which
national self-determination is okay. It's not I'm not anti that. This is unconscionable.
Where basically they have put their word to saying, we lost, you win. Here's the peace treaty, and then they go, no, JK Lol, and we're gonna kill you under a peace banner, and we're gonna make your heir walk barefoot all the way to Dorne.
Baylor's a cuck. And so is Darren the Second.
Yeah.
Blackfire all the way.
Yeah, Blackfire. Darren. At least Daemon Blackfire is cool.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they have Baelor go through a pit of snakes.
Yeah, everything about it is
because they're messing with him. They're sadistic assholes.
They are.
It's almost like George has written the Dornish to be sadistic assholes from the time of Aegon's conquest up until they're brought into the fold by Darren, and then there's no further mention of them because they've gotten what they wanted. They've gotten their bloodline on the Iron Throne.
Yeah, they got the best deal.
Yeah,
and even in the current era, and I know we're jumping around a little bit, but even in the current story, right? They are party to the restoration of, and look, I get the personal angle on this. What happened to Elia is bad, and I'm not against that strictly. But I want to be very clear about this. And here's the thing, right? There is a distinction between them making. I think there is a distinction made between the Dornish and the Martells. I'm actually more critical of the Martells than I am the Dornish, right? Because they're the ones doing this. The Martells are the ones actually leading these things happening, right? There's no it's them setting the war policy. It's them leading their insurrection. It's them now in the current setting. It's them angling to reinstitute the dynasty that was, again, justly overthrown for believing that they were beyond the laws that govern all men.
Mm-hmm. Kind of they be mostly because they want to kill Tywin Lannister, and not just kill Tywin Lannister, kill the legacy of Tywin Lannister.
But that's not that's if they were okay with that, they would be. That's not what they're doing. But they wouldn't be siding with Aegon if that's what they wanted to do. If that's all they wanted to do, because what they're doing is by doing what they're doing with Varys, they're also trying to reinstitute themselves as basically the second family of the realm.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're not just trying to kill the Lannisters.
Yeah, true. They want to establish themselves as the power like they were during
exactly Yeah, like yes. Justice should be done for Elia and her and what happened there and all that. I understand. I agree with that. But it's how convenient is it that like it also involves like like you getting back to where you were. So
Yeah, they want to. There's kind of an element of pettiness as well, where they're saying, we used to be the second family in the realm. We were the only family that got to marry into the Targaryens' royal line. Other families, like the Aarons, got a daughter.
It's not.
The Hightowers got the Hightowers.
Well, that's not their fault. Yes, other families did marry into the realm, but the Martells got like everything. They got better status. They got special dispensation on their realm. They got
no taxes.
Exactly. They were higher status. They had a higher title. They had
taxes.
Exactly. Right.
Prestige. They get to be like. So, like, there's kind of like, you can kind of say that the Aarons and the Valyrians, and the Baratheons are the main people up to that point that could marry into the Targaryen family.
Yeah.
But even those families did not get the preferential treatment that the Martells and the Elves did.
Exactly. No, I like to. I think I joked once, sort of half joking, but I joked that there was no house and no group of people have given more and gotten less to the Targaryens than the Tullys and the Riverlanders.
Yeah, since the Aegon
did it. Aegon did the right thing, but Aegon did right by them. Aegon did, and then no one else did.
Yeah. Like Aegon, in kind of a lot of ways, Aegon, he ends the reign of House Horror over the Riverlands. And House Horror and just the Ironborn in general, are worse than the Targs, I would say.
Yes. No. The Ironborn are what the Valyrians would be like if they didn't have dragons. Mm-hmm. Right? They are, and I think that's deliberate on Martin. And like this is deliberate on Martin's part. And it's one of the reasons I actually love them. And I love Euron so much.
Yeah, because he wants to be a Valyrian cosplayer.
Exactly. No. That's exactly correct. And the Ironborn, like people like to say that the Ironborn are they're like his dupes. That's true, but that's not all they are. They are also like Euron is just the culmination of Ironborn thinking, right? The Ironborn represent they're a totally. They are like the Valyrians. They're a self-worshipping.
They also have no exports. They only steal things from other people. That's
exactly.
Why their words That's why their words are. We do not sow. Exactly.
Right. No. They are right. That they are a totally extractive, ethnically. Like they're ethnocentric in like a way that's unhealthy, right? Like they're not just ethnocentric; they're actually racist, right?
Yeah, they believe that anybody who's not them is weaker, and therefore they can steal whatever they want from them.
Exactly,
and basically, like the iron price is paramount.
No, exactly. That's what they are. They represent like a total. They represent a total politics of the self, not the self. The self isn't quite the right way to say that. But a politics of like you could say like the ethnos in a way that is like truly unhealthy, right? Our like not to get too into this, but like people should be loyal to their ethnos to a certain extent, and they should promote the good of their people. But like what the Ironborn are saying is that no, our ethnos permits us to do anything to anyone else. They're kind of like. I don't know what. Like, I don't even know how to begin to describe. They're like, what are they like? Are they like pirate Spartans? Are they like stupid Spartans? Like, and Spartans are already pretty stupid.
Yeah, since they have the whole rock wife and salt wife deal.
Yeah, that too, right? They have everything about them is just like contemptible, and I think appropriately contemptible. Like like they're like in terms of like writing, how well they're written, they're like a better version. They're like a better version of how the Dothraki are, because the Dothraki are like this too, except they're not as like, they're just not interesting because they're not written well.
Yeah, and also just it doesn't make sense that they are able to conquer this much, considering that they don't innovate at all.
Yeah, they have no armor. Yeah.
Yeah,
No. The Dothraki are like, there's a hard distinction here, right? The Dothraki are just poorly written at times, right? But
yeah,
functionally they work. I think overall they mostly work because they feed into like delusions that these corrupt societies tell us, because the Dothraki don't, kind of like you said, the Dothraki don't make sense as like these like uber conquerors, but what they do make sense is as the muscle for the slave trade, because they're the guys who get the slaves that sell, and they're the guys who get the people that sell to the slave markets where they're trained into slaves and then export.
Other than the Dornish, who probably engage in that, who most likely engage in, who we know for sure that at least a few families engage in the slave trade.
That's fine. Let's go back to this, because like this is
because for sure we know that the Will of Wills and the Will of Will, he sells a bunch of people into slavery.
The Wills have got to be like the worst house Martin's ever written.
Yeah, like they're kind of worse than the Boltons in a lot of ways, and they're still buddies with the Martells to this day, and apparently they're still evil to this day, and just like the Ullers, like even Arya Martell is like, yeah, the Wills are awful, and the Ullers are all crazy, and some are worse than crazy. Yeah. That's how bad these people are. Even to the modern day, like they are like the Boltons of the South.
Yeah, no, they and unlike the Boltons, they don't have the immaculately well characterized Roose. Yeah, which is part of like this is the nature of storytelling. Not every character can be as well written as every other character, or needs to be.
Yeah, I love Roose Bolton. He's such a fascinating character.
He is so, and you haven't even read the books. He's good. I love him in the show. He is like so really good in the books. He's my favorite villain.
He has one of the best comebacks. Don't make me rue the day I raped your mother, bastard.
Oh, yeah, that's a villain line right there.
Yeah, that's an excellent line that is so indicative, like a psychopath who does not have any empathy or real emotion. He just is that's awesome. Like he's really chilling. He's legitimately chilling.
Like his first couple scenes, like where his first true scenes, where he's just reading the book and then he throws it in the fire, and it's like, yes. Yeah. Oh, and he just works. Like Roose also really works well as like one of the best things.
He's a contrast. He's also a contrast to Ned Stark, who is a very empathetic, good person, whereas Roose is a man who has no empathy and believes he believes in, like, I think like the best comparison, like the comparison point to make between them is Ned actually believes in justice, but Roose Bolton believes in quiet.
That's a good one. It is like my favorite thing, probably one of the best things in the whole series is how well you can find, like, not for every character, but for like almost all the characters, you can find how they like play off of all sorts of different characters, right? Because for me, the point of comparison with Roose is not Ned; it's actually Tywin. Because
that's actually a pretty good idea, because they both are very brutal people, but Roose is smarter in how he deals with threats. You get it, because Roose is the kind of person that Tywin is trying to convince people that he is, but he's not. Yeah,
because Tywin runs hot under the surface. Tywin runs too hot, and Roose does not.
Yeah, because Tywin is basically a prideful man who overreacts, and the Red Wedding is basically an overreaction because a 14-year-old kid humiliated him for months.
Yes.
made him look bad in front of the realm and basically said, I'm a better tactician than you. I can beat you over and over again in open battle.
Exactly. And Bruce is just ice cold.
Yeah. Where he's like, I don't like he will casually send men to their deaths and not feel bad about it.
And he doesn't overreact, and he doesn't care about anything. Not really. Again, like everyone's like, oh, like she's trying to do the King of the North thing. No.
He's not dumb enough to do that.
Exactly the thing. Like he's again, like I think that like the order in which you're told things about characters matters, right? Mm-hmm. And the last thing we're told,
where Robb is the first thing we know about Ramsay Bolton is that he scares Robb.
Exactly.
Up to this point, is a kid who seems like he's brave to the point of kind of stupidity in some points.
Yeah. But the thing is that like you know, we're told the last sort of like thing we're told about Roose is that he like, you know, he seems to like view life as like a game, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that you know, and that's almost certainly true because he's again a maniac. And that's what he's doing. He's not like he doesn't have grand plans about the future of his house. He doesn't care that Ramsay's probably going to kill his child with his fat wife. He doesn't care that Wyman Manderley doesn't like him and is probably trying to betray him. He just wants to like win the game right now. He just wants to like win the board in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's way cool because that's also completely unlike Tywin Lannister. And that's the thing. You can see like all kinds of little contrasts. Like again, another one of my favorite contrasts is actually like Tywin and Stannis. And that's deliberate. Like there's a reason why Storm of Swords is basically written as like it's basically like Storm of Swords, if you actually notice it, like Storm of Swords is basically like King's Landing and Dragonstone like reacting to things like to other things happening in Westeros. But I digress.
Yeah. So but yeah, then kind of the moment where like for me, like I just read this and then there's kind of there's other war crimes like Joffrey, Dane goes out of Starfall, attacks, burns the fields, farms, Jenny Leagues, kills a bunch of people, puts this garrison to the sword. There's a bunch of people were taken back to Dornish captives, probably to be sold into slavery. Since I honestly believe that the Dornish are involved in the slave trade. Because I think that since the main thing about it that's weird is that the Dornish, specifically the Martells, are like their bastards are dressed better than Cersei.
Yeah, they're also like a decadent culture, right? Like there's nothing like, and like that just means they're like vivacious and they're exuberant. It's like no, that's decadent, right?
And also how are they getting that money since Dorne has no significant exports other than their wine.
That's fair. I get it. I'm gonna try to avoid that kind of speculation just on the fairness. But
yeah, but it's like during this time period they are selling their prisoners of war to
no, they are doing that. So, it says they're doing that. I know that.
And so in all likelihood and considering how like big a cash cow slavery is where you can just sell criminals and if they were to sell criminals, they would make a lot of money. It's how Jorah Mormont got.
Yeah, no, like I mean, like somehow, I'm gonna break this. Somehow, Jorah Mormont is like selling like a couple of poachers into slavery. He's gonna like get them out of all his debts. Slavery is a pretty big, that's a lot of cheddar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But then we so this is kind of the moment where it's like this single paragraph in Fire and Blood just made me like, no, there's no way you can make the Aegon's conquest from the Dornish perspective. Like that is
not
going to happen. Yeah. So like, let's kind of like go for it. The most infamous act of that bloody age, which was after they kill Rhaenys Targaryen, probably torture her if she lives, she gets tortured in the bowels of the Ullers. Like that's the few of the counts. So torture, probably cutting bits off of her, which is what they generally do to their prisoners of war. They say Will of Will, the widow lover, arrived uninvited at the wedding of Sir John Catherine, heir to Fawntown, and to Alice Oakhart, daughter of the Old Oak. Admitted through postern gate by a treacherous servant, the Wills attackers slew Lord Oakhart and most of the wedding guests, then made the bride look on as they gelded her husband. Afterward, they took turns raping Lady Alice and her handmaids, then carried them off and sold them to a mere slaver. I'm like, all right, that done. No, there's no way they can make no. There's unless they cut that bit out. That ain't flying with general audiences.
No, like,
if this your protagonists do this, there's no coming back from that. That is not coming. You are not coming back from that, and I am not making that. I wish I was making that up, but George decided to put it in, and I cited that one point to somebody who was defending the Dornish and say, no, they're just fine. And I'm just like, they did this. And he's like, holy crap, George. We'll see that later in this comment thread on this very video. But I do want to establish. I think that doing it from the Dornish, especially if you adapt what they do, it fails on 2 points. One, it fails that the Martells are terrible overlords.
That's the thing, right?
You always pointed out.
Yes.
But also, you can't have a. If they were to do this and put that moment on screen and have any degree of celebration by the Dornish doing it, or even just no reaction from the Dornish at all, if that happens, everybody is going to say glass Dorn, turn Dorn to glass. That is what that is what general audiences are going to say, and they will say Aegon is the hero. He should kill all of them.
Of course, no, that's the thing. Like, if see, there is an interesting version of this where, like this Will character or whoever it is, right, is maybe like an ally, a friend, even dare we say, and okay, he's kind of like a rambunctious asshole, but all right, he's on our side, whatever. And then he does something like this, and it's like, okay, what do I do? Right? But that's not the way Martin writes the story. Martin writes the story as the Dornish are completely united behind their, again, absentee lords. And again, you see, this right here is a perfect example of this. It's a violation of the space in which war can be conducted. Now, is it as bad as the Red Wedding? I would argue no, although except on that one guard who should be flayed alive. Because part of the problem with the Red Wedding is that it's a violate. Rob should not expect an attack from Walder Frey, right?
Yeah, because he's under guest right. He is protected by sacred customs and important law.
Exactly, right.
That allows.
Whereas in this context, Will is to an enemy from outside, and if he sneaks in, then fair enough, right? But this is still a violation of the space in which war can be conducted, and of course, this is a problem because this is what
they're even just going off of, and they're just going off of going after, and then they just start launching assassination attempts on. Back and forth, just seemingly on random targets.
Exactly, and there's no appreciation for what this means, because this is where
this demonstrates a degree of comfortability with certain atrocious acts that tell you something about Will of Will as a character. That he's very comfortable with doing something like this, which means that he's probably done it a few times.
Yes, and also means something. Well, I'm trying to drive it the way Martin is thinking, actually, because this speaks to a sort of a lack of appreciation for what it means to be at war to a certain extent, right? There's no nice way to say this. War since at least World War II, and probably before then, has not been about defeating the enemy army in the field. It's basically been about how thoroughly you can murder the civilians so that they stop supporting the war. Mm-hmm. And that's a problem, actually, it's a problem that
like
war.
like the chevauchée stuff that the Black Prince of Wales did during the 100 Years' War.
Yeah, it's an
for
it's an
example.
interesting contrast between how World War One and World War Two is fought because World War One placed a lot more emphasis on logistics, trying to cripple your opponents economically, and World War Two is just like you said, hinge a lot more on urban warfare, and that in turn would kind of foreshadow how a lot of American wars would be fought in the future.
Well, I mean, like even in World War One, like this kind of has to be talked about. The thing that defeated Germany and Austria was the blockade. That was starving the civilian populace. And here's the important thing, and like not to get too spicy about this, but like the British kept up the blockade after the armistice. Because what happened after the armistice was basically Germany and Austria went through a series of social revolution / fracturing. This is where we get the dissolution of the Hungarian of the Habsburg Empire, which was one of the worst things that ever happened to Europe. And they did that, and they kept up the blockade because they wanted to exert pressure on the German and Austrian governments, and that's what they did. And it is entirely yes. If you can hear the disgust in my voice, that's good because it's there. And I'm not Austrian or German at all. Like this is it's just a naked. I'm just like we see the naked cynicism of how war is conducted.
Yeah.
So, but again, like this is again to bring it back to this. Like yes, Tywin murdering civilians is a problem. The Dornish violating the space in which war is fought, violating the manner in which war is fought, is a problem. It's a problem if they're not going to stand. Like discretion is one thing, right? Tactical discretion is one thing. I'm not strictly against. Like
I'm fine with them. I'm fine. Yeah, like I'm fine with the Dornish's assassination targets, like them trying to kill Aegon to end the war. Smart. Killing some of his lords, totally fine. I think that's perfectly reasonable within the context. Going after that particular target, that's a really hard ask.
Right.
And even like them cutting off the hands, I'm like, that's pretty bad, but I'm like, fair, I guess. You don't want them fighting against it will prove to bite them in the ass later when Orys Baratheon comes down on the Vulture King and kills
There's a question of like of fair. There's a question of like how do you treat surrendered prisoners? How like we get this right, but no, breaking into a wedding like attacking someone to kill them is understandable. Attacking someone in a space you shouldn't to kill them is much more questionable, but okay, like there's at least some kind of cold logic there. Attacking someone in a space you shouldn't be attacking them to like maim and rape them is not okay. Like it's not.
Yeah, there's if they do this and they make Doran the protagonist, if they don't have the Dornish condemn what happens, which I don't think that they
wouldn't because they don't have the moral sense to if they're going this far, they wouldn't have the moral sense to know that this is bad.
Yeah, like this is, and just the fact that they've probably been doing this for years at this point, probably not to this degree, considering this is the most infamous act of the war. And kind of there's the comparison like, Aegon is burning a lot of towns. He only really does this after Dorne revolts
and proves to be completely intractable. There's no like come on.
And like even like saying Dorne burning people alive is way worse than what the Will does. Like that's an actual argument within the comments, and I was like, what? I firmly disagree with that.
Well, there's a question of like, is it worse to like blow up Dresden, or is it worse to like what's worse, the destruction of Dresden, or like the Soviet armies like raping their way across East Germany, which is what they did, right? Like it's a serious, and I'm not dismissing that. There is a serious question there, like what actually is worse? But like,
I think that the latter makes people like there's
it's
a
more
clinical logic to the first one. The other one people don't generally like psychopaths who who just kind of seem to like want to do stuff like that. There's a personal element to the crime, the war crime.
There's an
rape.
intimate element to it, right?
Yeah, it's
That's
like, oh, you blew up a bunch of people. Oh, and then you rape a person. I'm like, ooh. There's kind of just that immediate like gut reaction of, ooh.
Yeah, exactly. All right. No, because you're doing something that like definitely shouldn't be done, right?
Yeah.
You probably shouldn't blow people up. You definitely shouldn't rape them.
Yeah. And then there's kind of the question of this. What is George trying to do? Is he trying to make Aegon look good? Because I feel like with what the Dornish do throughout the war compared to what Aegon does, where Aegon doesn't seem to go out, like in the descriptions, he doesn't go out of his way to mass destroy people.
I cannot, see, so like all the criticisms I level against Jaehaerys, I can't really do that with Aegon. I can't. Because he doesn't really act that way. Yes, he's a conqueror, and he's, we could debate the whole formulation of the Iron Throne and of it as like a regime, as a state, whether Westeros should be a single united poly and all that kind of stuff. We can debate all that. But he acts as a conqueror and a uniter, and he gets buy-in. He beats people, and then they're either intransigent and he kills them, or they surrender and he gets buy-in from them, and he leaves them alone. That's okay.
Yeah, and basically the main thing he institutes is the King's Peace, to the point where that's one of the things that was cited against Aenys was the knights and lords longed for the days when a man with a horse and a sword and a suit of armor could slash his way to riches and glory, as well as they wanted the ability to tax their subjects and kill their enemies without the king's approval.
Well, that's a whole other thing, right? And yes, like there's a component here, like where right needs might, right? Mm-hmm. It's okay that Aegon like has a strong hand to do these things. It's not the end of the world. Again, the larger question is like, can a state be that big? Like that's a serious question, right? Mm-hmm. Forget, and it's not just a question of technology. It's a question of particularism. It's a question of you could say ethnos if you want. It's a question of subsidiarity principles, and these are principles that this is where you could have this whole thing with Stannis as well. Like this is not trivial, but there's no evidence that Aegon is guilty of like the ethos destroying ideas like Jaehaerys is.
Yeah, like Aegon adopts the culture of Westeros, whereas Jaehaerys violently changes.
And he sublimates it. That's the thing. He sublimates it to the political regime. He sublimates it to the dynasty.
Yeah, like with Aegon, he adopts the sigil, he adopts the Faith of the Seven, he adopts house words and stuff like that. The people actually are very happy, like when he lands, which could be propaganda, but the people when the Aegon fort is first erected and he lands, the people cheer to have a true king, which could be just the small folk being stupid. That's possible, but it seems like
he's still kind of. He's like a cool guy, otherwise,
Yeah,
but
yes. And like we see him, the first thing he does is he goes after Harren Hoare.
He goes, it doesn't hurt that he goes after like the worst possible, like or rather the best possible example of like a tyrant.
Yeah, who, if he doesn't destroy that, Harren could theoretically if he just keeps funneling Ironborn into Westeros, utilizing Harrenhal as his unassailable base. He could become a major problem.
Oh yeah, no. Harren, the one of the things I definitely don't like about like the fandom and things like is how they kind of like this constant need to dismiss the Ironborn as like idiots. And it's
Yeah,
like, no, no, no,
the
no.
Ironborn built the biggest castle in Westeros.
No, they are incredibly dangerous. And you
Yeah.
see it because you see it. That's one of the main reasons I like Euron. You see it. Right?
Yeah, they have the capacity, like, to, even though they have small numbers, they are unusually dangerous for their size by comparison.
And some of that's Martin again, not some of that's Martin being goof with numbers, but it's not unworkable. So
Yeah.
but you know what? I apologize. I think we've digressed enough. I think maybe we want to watch it unless
let's keep going.
Conquest is going to be on the big screen. And this is most definitely very exciting news. And over the last few days, I've been doing a lot of thinking as to what I want this movie to be, how I think they could go about telling the story, what the best kind of movie would look like, and what I think they'll end up doing. A few months back, I said that I didn't really think Aegon's Conquest would work as a movie because, well, there is a fair amount going on. Telling this movie from the perspective of the Targaryens just doesn't sound that interesting. While Aegon does run into problems during his rule, and there are issues that he has to deal with, for the most part, outside of Dorne, he kind of just mops the floor with Westeros. And that's why with this movie, I really hope there is heavy focus placed on Aegon's conflict with Dorne. But ideally, I'd love if we got an Aegon's Conquest movie, where the main perspective is that of the Dornish people. Now, I know this sounds very far-fetched, because they're going to be making a movie about Targaryens, and the Targaryens probably wouldn't be in it for that long. But imagine this. The movie opens up, and maybe you see the Targaryens for a bit. You see the start of the conquest, you see them landing on Dragonstone, and you see their story begin. You get to see what happens at Harrenhal, you get to see all of the battles that they absolutely roll through with their giant dragons, and then about 15 or 20 minutes in, we start focusing on the Dorne plotline. For those of you that don't know, the biggest issue Aegon faced during his rule was the fact that Dorne was kicking his butt. There was a grandma in Dorne that has great tactics. I'm not going to spoil for the sake of not wanting to spoil the movie based off of the source material, but she finds a way to dodge Aegon's Dragonfire and his sister's Dragonfire, and eventually gets the upper hand. And when you're reading Fire and Blood, the perspective is skewed. So we're meant to be sympathizing with Aegon because the people writing this book like Aegon. The Westerosi people view him and his conquest as something that was good because it united the realms, and so on and so forth. The book is biased. But when you spin the perspective and really think about what...
So the whole last 10-ish seconds was just not great. So first of all, yes, the thing you're reacting to is the whole it's propaganda, which means blah, blah, blah. That's just I'm so sick of that argument. I am so sick of that argument.
Yeah, I don't like it either. I hate it. I hate it, honestly.
And
especially since they aren't glazing Aegon. They actually Aegon seems like he doesn't really go for they don't really glaze Aegon.
No, they don't. They just
to a significant degree.
They just kind of say what happens.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, on the Field of Fire, the amount of people who died on the Field of Fire from the opposing side is actually really tiny.
Yeah.
In comparison to how many it could have.
Yeah.
So for reference, what I'm talking about is during the Field of Fire, Aegon unleashed 3 dragons the size of Smaug on a 60,000 man army and burned the field. And out of that 60,000 man army, only 4,000 died. That is tiny.
Yeah, that is pretty. Yes, it is. Yes, I remember even reading. I remember when I read that the first time, and I'm like, this is not don't get me wrong. I understand how that is a big deal. I understand how that could be a big deal. I understand that the shock of that doesn't matter. This is not the worst defeat ever. It's just not.
Yeah. It is scary in terms of how quickly he killed those 4,000 people, but the fact that he restrained himself and only killed 4,000 people, 4,000 people, seems like it's a big number, but out of 60,000, and basically made them surrender, after only killing 4,000 people, that's actually you could even I struggle to call that anything less than hyper pragmatic.
It's that's 15% of the overall total.
Yeah, it's a really tiny percent. It's a very small percentage. Especially considering they can do nothing against his dragons. It's just they're a field army with no siege, with no weapons able to kill a dragon, and he only kills 4,000. He probably could have killed the entire 60,000 man army without very much difficulty, and yet he did not, which says a lot about which I would say says a lot about Aegon. And generally, conquerors will inflate the numbers if they're trying to be biased, like Julius Caesar frequently does, as does Alexander the Great. But Aegon does not, which I think is a good indication that this is fairly factual. There's also the fact that he does a lot of things, like he has his sisters rule and are like his sisters are basically even with him in terms of power. He institutes the King's Progress and goes around the realm on his dragon, which admittedly is a covert scare tactic.
It is, but like
it's reasonable, where he's actually going to, the king is going to his lords and saying, "Hey, I want to chat with you. Let's sit down. What do you need?"
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. That all not all, but like, you know, like that's a thing that happened in real life, obviously, and that's kind of like the point of it. Yes, it is a show of force. It is also like, this is, you know, these are personal relationships. That's what it means. A feudal oath is a personal relationship. So let's just have dinner, buddy.
Yeah,
I like awkward Aegon now. I like this idea. This is working.
Yeah, where he's this kind of, and honestly, like he seems like he doesn't have, he's kind of like Rhaegar in a way, where he doesn't have many close friends other than his sisters and Oris Baratheon.
No, he comes across as like a somber like this is something. So this is something that I think we do have to give to the video. Like, having the Targaryens be the protagonists, especially Aegon, represents something very dramatically difficult. And this is something that, like, I think is best seen in Shakespeare, actually, with Henry V and also like Prospero from The Tempest, where in those plays, Shakespeare has a very difficult task on his hands, because he has to actually like make the protagonist, because his protagonists in those stories are incredibly like rational and composed and efficacious people. And that's actually usually bad from a dramatic standpoint, because we like our dramatic protagonists to be passionate, right? And to be flying off the handle, and not necessarily like that, but like, you know, that's what we want. Aegon is not like that.
Aegon is rational to the point where he is like, he just very, very deliberately picks his targets, and as well as just says, "Hey, if you bend the knee, nothing will happen. You'll pay." It's basically you'll just pay a reasonable tax, keep the king's peace. Nothing bad will happen. You will be under my protection.
Yeah, you acknowledge me as your overlord, etc., etc. That's the end of that.
Yeah, where it's basically like, and it's kind of just which I think that, like, that's actually a decent deal, where he's like, where basically he doesn't really interfere with the lives of anybody that much.
No, he seems like no, again, like I said, he does not seem. The reason why I'm giving Aegon a slight pass, even though he's a sister fucking dragon riding maniac,
a little bit, yeah, where he actually like is like literally in love with his little sister. Yeah,
we're gonna ignore. I'm gonna put my utter hatred for Valerians aside for a second. He just is like a normal guy. He's a normal feudal lord. He has enemies. He beats them, and he does normal things with them. He either they either submit, and then it's like normal business as usual, or they don't, and he kills them, which is like normal. I would expect anyone to do that. It's why I also don't dislike Daemon the First. He just acts like a normal feudal lord.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as well as just the fact that he's a kid who has had his dynasty destroyed, but almost destroyed, and he needs something to prove to the rest of the realm that the Targaryens are still able to keep control.
Yeah.
And that's time. Yeah, it's like that's a tiny percentage, especially because he basically has the equivalent of 3 attack act jets in a supremely badly equipped scenario where, and especially since it's he just does a very small amount of casualties, especially compared to Maegor, who destroys lots and lots of people with his dragon by comparison to his dad.
No, exactly. I mean, what do you think about all this, Spider? I apologize. We've been talking a lot.
No worries. It's by the way, it's Raptor.
That is.
By the way.
I figured. That's what I figured. But
yeah, no worries. I've mostly just been absorbing. Like this has been more so an education than anything, so it's a bit difficult for me to provide more insight than what's already been given. Because this is of course exploited branch that I'm very vaguely familiar. This is almost like a university course equivalent of what I know, which is kind of like early high school.
Fine, fair enough.
Yeah.
Let's
this
keep
is
going.
this is a reference to Andor season 2, if you didn't know.
The Gorman Spider. Cool. Yeah. Let's
going on. You have these people who are essentially living relatively peaceful lives, or at bare minimum.
Fuck you for that.
That's not true. That's not true. The Dornish marches and and the Durandons are at war with the Reach and the Riverlands for a long time, and the Dornish marches are considered one of the most war-torn areas because they are constantly fighting with each other. Because the Dornish are basically desert ironborn. They steal what they cannot grow because their lands are crap.
That is a little unfair, I think. I think that's going a touch too far because there's no evidence that they have within them the rapacious and
they're iron raiders.
No, don't get me wrong. Let me be very clear about this. The Borderlands, they are belligerent. They are belligerent and unfriendly neighbors. That is absolutely true. And there's no evidence. But like the problem with the Ironborn is that
they have nothing on their islands. It's basically crap stained rocks.
Well, no. Yes, but no. What I mean by that is what I mean is that like the problem is that like it's baked into their very ethos that to work is lesser. There's no evidence of that with the Dornish.
Okay.
Right. It'd be very unfair to say that about the Dornish because that's never said about them. They never say that about others.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, there's evidence that they're belligerent assholes, but not that they're like they look down on work.
Okay, fair enough. But it's like they are using similar tech. They're
raiders. They steal. They're thieves. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but yeah, like I don't. And also, Harrenhor destroys this argument. Like Harrenhor is not peaceful. He's a slaver, and Aegon ends the rule of the Ironborn.
Yeah, I love he's talking. He's like he's showing. Yes, this is actually man. It's actually worse than I thought because yes, he's actually talking about. I thought he was just talking about the Dornish. No, he's talking about all of them, and he's literally showing Aegon burning the monument to slave labor that is Harrenhal.
Yeah, let me back up.
And really think about what him and his conquest is something that was good because it united the realms and so on and so forth. The book is biased. But when you spin the perspective and really think about what's going on, you have these people who were essentially living relatively peaceful lives or at bare minimum doing their own thing. They weren't being conquered. And then you have these giant fire-breathing dragons that roll up to their houses, burn them down, murder a bunch of people and say, hey, you need to follow me now. You need to listen to me. That sounds horrific. That sounds horrible.
Yeah, I hate Targaryens too, buddy. I fucking hate the Valyrians too. But
the problem is Harrenhor is worse than Aegon.
Yeah, you look at
Harrenhor needed to die. Harrenhor has created a giant castle on slave labor And most, like, the Tullys were like, yeah, we are okay with this. Kill him. We're totally fine with this. Kill this guy. We don't like him.
Yeah.
Please kill this guy. We will do anything you want. And Aegon actually not only
in 120 years, we are going to carry your great granddaughter to victory. She's going to give us nothing in return. Nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like he like the Tullys are for the Targaryens for the rest of their lives because he destroyed the Ironborn that were their overlords that had basically kicked their butts and were now in full control of the Riverlands. And then he raised them up from just regular lords and said, hey, you are now Lords Paramount of this area. You have not done anything for me. I don't care. This guy needed to be dealt with. Here, I am just going to be making you my Lords Paramount. And they're like, dope, we like you.
Yeah. Right, and then they're the best. Then they're the best house ever.
Yeah,
love them.
So great that George named a bunch of them off of Muppets.
I hate those characters. I love Edmure to death. They're my favorite. Edmure's like one of my favorite characters in everything about. I hate the dance. I hate the dance so much. It's awful. And I actually love that they're named after Muppets. I think that's really. That's funny. That's fun. That's funny. That shows like a level of like,
like he names like in Game of Thrones he names it the Lannister guards after Larry, Curly, and Moe.
Yeah, exactly. Right. There's the best. There's the and like sometimes though it's got to be like sometimes though the true gems are where like it's impossible to tell if it's deliberate or not. And of course, the best example of this, if not for my hand, I would never have come at all. And it's like one of the best moments in the whole series when he says that. And it's like when you actually look at the line, it's like that's hilarious that he says it like that.
What's the line?
Oh no, it's the scene where it's where Jon is talking to Stannis on the wall after Stannis has saved everyone, and is like the best person ever, and Jon is like, well, it's about time you showed up, and Stannis is like, if not for my hand, I might not have come at all. And it's like, because he's talking about Davos, but like you say that, and it's like you see the innuendo in the line. Come on, this is like a classic joke on the forums. This is like one of the best jokes.
Which could you repeat it? You cut out first.
Okay, so the line from Stannis is, if not for my hand, I might not have come at all.
Oh my God.
And he's talking about and I want to be very clear with this. He is talking about my favorite scene, the scene where Davos convinces Stannis to sail to the wall and save the day. It is the best. It is one of the best scenes in the series. It is the culmination of the arc of Dragonstone. It is the moment where the Stannis regime distinguishes itself from the Lannister regime. It's amazing. Yeah, I love Davos 6. That chapter is my favorite chapter in the whole series. And like being able to turn it into that joke is so funny. It's the best.
Yeah, let's keep going. So I think that he is kind of like
this already is like ridiculous.
This is already like kind of missing. This is at the very least drastically not understood Harrenhal. Like Harrenhal needed to die. Like he needed to die. Like that's I'm like relatively peaceful lives. No, the Ironborn needed to be dealt with.
No.
Interesting story to tell if the majority of the movie was from the Dornish perspective. Now, light spoilers. Dorne ends up winning the conflict with Aegon specifically. The leader of Dorne at this point in time is able to get the upper hand and stop Aegon from trying to take Dorne. This can make the movie really interesting, where the audience goes into it thinking we're going to be rooting for the Targaryens and would realize that what they're doing is terrible. Their conquest isn't something that should be praised. It's awful. And Dorne winning in this moment could serve as a hopeful message that in a world that seeks to take over your life, that seeks to use power and abuse to control you, if you say steadfast to what you believe in, if you can think on your feet, if you can unite with the people around you, there is a way to victory over these immense odds. Now, I have to be realistic.
Lame.
This is probably...
That also doesn't. I don't think he read the Dornish section very carefully.
So I'm really curious why you said it was lame. I really want to know why you phrased it that way.
In mostly the sense that when he talks about an audience's expectation going into this film, thinking that they were for the Targaryens, only for them to have a rug pull, a few rug pull moments, realizing that these are all very clearly the bad guys, very much obvious stand-in post-colonial faction that's oppressing culture that's just want to be left alone. I don't think that there's a lot of intrigue surrounding those events that I think this YouTuber thinks that there's going to be. Not to say that's not going to be executed poorly or anything, but he also comes off as if the Dornish are going to be viewed as, or he wants the Dornish to be viewed as highly, highly, highly sympathetic. There's no
I was hoping
nuance or more
I was hoping you were
that.
gonna take it here because
Yeah.
this is this guy this is what I'm supposed to say. So this guy seems to think that there's nothing more interesting than a rebellion against even just moderate reasonable oppression, which is just lame. It's just lame. This is the way someone there's no nice way to say this. This is what someone who thinks that Star Wars is the height of artistic achievement would think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And also just the problem of if we take a look at it, so
seeks to use power and abuse to control you. If you stay steadfast to what you believe in, if you can think on your feet, if you can unite with the people around you, there is a way to victory over these immense odds.
which I would say is not a description of the Dornish at all.
No.
That's that is a very inaccurate description of the Dornish, considering the war crimes that we just read out, all of the bad things that they do. Because what they do, I don't know what George was thinking, but he has made the Dornish and the Martells worse than the Targaryens, because at least the Targaryens do not violate the space of war, as you put it.
Funny enough, the fact that we're talking about revolutions, but I think one of the main writers for this upcoming Game of Thrones film, if it's ever going to manifest anything beyond just a concept, is actually one of the writers for Andor.
I think that they will, because it's weird that there's kind of an Aegon movie and an Aegon TV show. I don't know what the deal is going to be. But I think it's kind of odd because they want to do it concurrently. I also do not think, based on what we read, basically the only thing about the Dornish is not a matter of them coming together. It's a matter of them basically using Byzantine tactics, where basically what they say is, anything that is sneaky, mean, cruel, and nasty in order to win, we are going to do. And even if they don't contribute to their winning, we will do them anyway.
That's a very fine use of the adjective there. I'm not going to oppose. I'm not opposed to that at all. But there's coming to get again, that fat bitch just abandons her people. No.
They are fighting in her. They are fighting in her name, and
they're dying in her name. They're dying in her name.
That too. But the only thing she does is throw a captive out of a window. That's the extent of her contribution to the world.
I cannot think of anything more more boomer than thinking that it's heroic to die for a fat woman hiding in a cave.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I don't know. Okay. I'm harping on her being fat, but she's really fat. She's drawn really fat, and she's described as really fat and ugly. So I think I'm just doing that for the. I'm just doing that for the bit.
She's called the Yellow Toad of Dorne. That's her nickname.
Yeah. I'm doing that for the bit, right? But I want to be clear. If she was a beautiful, sexy, gorgeous woman, and she, and oh my god, It would still be contemptible.
If she was like Ariane Martell, it would still be equally bad and
it would.
reprehensible. It's just hilarious that George contrasts the Yellow Toad of Dorne being the cause of the death of Rhaenys Targaryen, one of the most beautiful women in the history of the Seven Kingdoms.
Yeah, but of course, and like we're supposed to give her credit for that, please.
Yeah,
belongs to that poor sap, that poor soul, with just his ballista or scorpion, if you will. But
I think it's just to continue my point earlier. I think it's Beowulf Willimon, who's writing this upcoming Game of Thrones film, and he was responsible for writing the prison arc in Andor season 1 and the Gorman Part 1 arc for Andor season 2.
Okay, so that could be interesting. I'll be intrigued to see it. I do not want to see it from the perspective that this person is advocating for.
No, yeah, but this guy's asking for it.
Yeah, I agree.
It's garbage.
Especially since we just read it. I'm like, I don't know why you got that message from Dorne. That is not the message of Dorne. Dorne is, we commit war crimes like the Boltons, and we win. Yay!
Yeah, but overall, the likelihood of this film being good, I think, is higher than it not being of a high caliber quality, considering his prior work on Andor. So,
and also like Aegon's conquest is more easily characterized and there's more clear stuff happening as opposed to Fire and Blood, which is a mix of different things. You can kind of tell, like, there's some things like, for instance, if you look at it, Preston Jacobs actually pointed this out, that Septon Eustace himself says that Rhaenyra's kids are not illegitimate. And he's the guy that anoints Aegon II. So it's more likely that Melis and Mushroom are lying about Rhaenyra having illegitimate kids. So, I
mean, I don't know that I can buy that. I mean, I think that, like, I don't think that this. I mean, like, kids look like their parents. Like, it doesn't make sense that they don't look like her. Like, it doesn't make any sense that they look nothing like anyone in their genetic history.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like they have black hair, right? And they look like Baratheons. They have brown hair.
Yeah. But there is kind of like a weird. Preston Jacobs actually pointed out a sleight of hand with there where they don't ever describe Harwin Strong's appearance. And he's saying, like, all babies have pug noses. And, well, that's a thing. And I'd be interesting to... Honestly, I would actually be interested in going through that and seeing his over-analyzing House of the Dragon. He only gets up to the Green Council. But...
So the whole thing about Rhaenyra and her kids, right, is... First of all, I don't just buy that, like, it's not a repeating plot point. It's not a repeating plot point because Rhaenyra clearly exists to act as a mirror on Cersei, right?
Yeah, and she's very impetuous. She's very entitled. She's kind of an incompetent ruler because she immediately goes for oppressing the people with taxes as opposed to taking out loans.
Well, she is bad. No. She is a bad ruler. She also she does not take to the field of battle as her responsibility.
Even though she probably could, like, her dragon is actually pretty large he's at least as large as Sunfire, I would say. And Sunfire goes into battle. So Aegon and Sunfire go into battle to fight.
She could probably do something, right? And but more to the point, right? The thing about the reason why, like, her kids are illegitimate is that, like, it's an interesting story that way, right? This is
and also it's funny because it ends up all of her illegitimate kids end up dying, and only her true-born kids with her uncle end up living and perpetuating the line. One line becomes the Blackfire Rebellion, Blackfire Pretenders, and then the other line becomes the legitimate Targaryens.
Yes, and the other thing is that, like, So this is a more interesting version of the Cersei situation, right? Because one of the things that you can actually just legitimately just like say is an error on Martin's part is that Joffrey being as terrible as he is makes it too easy. It makes the situation too easy.
Whereas Jace is a good kid.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. He's a good kid. Not only a kid, he's a good prince. He does better than she does.
Yeah, where he fights in the Battle of the Gullet and then ends up dying gloriously on the field of battle.
I mean, not even just that. I mean, it's his idea to train the guys. He does diplomacy well. He's by all accounts a good, like he's a good prince. He's an effective. He's shaping up to be a good prince. And yes, he does that in the field of battle. And like it's one of like it's in fact the Battle of the Gullet. I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, like because the way it like plays out is like the dragons like kill everyone, and then there's the one death to Jace, but then like the Navy like sacks Driftmark anyway, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, that's clearly a mistake on George's part.
Yeah, like you know what I'm talking about, right? Like, because like I remember reading that and being like, cause I remember when I listened to the audiobook, and I'm like, wait, but they lost, kind of. I mean, like ignoring the whole like aftermath where like they somehow sack the islands, right? The actual like content of the battle is like one of the actually probably the only good battle in the dance, because it's like, oh, like there's this great victory, but like the commander Jace is like killed at the end of it, and it becomes like this Pyrrhic victory. It becomes like this Pyrrhic victory, and that's great. Like that's a great dramatic moment in the story, and it's probably the last good dramatic moment in the whole story. Actually, now that I think about it, and it's. And that works because if Joffrey being so bad makes it like, so the question we're forced to ask about what's going on with Rhaenyra and Jacaerys is this okay? Is this like actually okay that she's like, she's lying basically to everyone about this? Because clearly Jacaerys is perfectly fine. He's not like, again, he's like a good prince, so like, is it a big deal? And my answer to that question is yes, it is a big deal. Mm-hmm. It matters that the sword of the state is being pointed at you and commanding you to lie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even in the case of a good guy, it's still a gray, immoral situation where
it's an uncomfortable situation as far as I'm concerned. I mean, like. I don't say that lightly. Like this is very like, it's very serious. But that's what it is.
So, yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so it looks like erased for a day and a night. Suddenly they're the attackers bypass Dragonstone. Sex spiced on super weird. High Tide was put to the torch as well.
How? Like how?
Thousands died. Yeah, that's yeah. George probably mixed up the events. That's probably an editing mistake. Yeah.
It is just weird, right? Like it's not just me.
Yeah, that's weird. We just had basically several pages of let me look exactly how many pages exactly we thinking here. So we just barely had multiple paragraphs of 4 dragons, 4 of them really large dragons, destroying an entire fleet.
Yeah, like that's the drama of the battle, right? They win the battle, but they lose the two kids, which is just personal tragedy, and they lose their best commander. Right, that's perfect. That makes perfect sense. That's exactly the way it should be. And it's like, oh well, they're also like gonna destroy the islands. What? How does this happen? What is going on?
Yeah, they bypass Dragonstone and hit Driftmark. That actually doesn't make sense because Driftmark is closer to Tyrosh on the map than Dragonstone is. Dragonstone is
yeah, I guess
is west of Driftmark, which is just like they wouldn't need to bypass Driftmark. They would just hit it. And also just the gullet, like how did they get past 4 dragons that are the size of 747s?
I can't answer these questions.
Yeah, because it's George. He screwed up. Yay.
Now, I have to be realistic. This is probably not going to happen. More likely than not, Aegon and his sister wives are going to be the protagonists of this movie, and we're going to watch them take Westeros with fire and blood. But if that's the case, the question that I keep coming up with is, what is the point of the story being made, other than the most important one, that being making money? What are they going to try and say if you tell this story from the perspective of the Targaryens? Because if you make them the quote-unquote good guys, I feel that undermines the messaging of George R. R. Martin's story that war, conquest, all of this is a bad thing. So how do you tell that story and make them the good guys without doing that? Or will they have the guts to tell the story from the perspective of Aegon and his sister wives and dare to portray them in a more negative light? That also just sounds a little risky, telling an entire story from the perspective of the people who are frankly worse than the other ones around them, which brings me to my
that doesn't.
This is becoming more. This is. I don't know about this, buddy.
I'm like Harrenhal, case closed. He is Harrenhal, case closed. Harrenhal, worse than Aegon. The case closed.
It's not hard. It's not hard to figure out.
Yeah, it's like no, like it's just no. George is like. I think the thing that George is saying is that Aegon actually ends conflict for multiple decades, because
like the imposition of order is not itself evil. It's just not. Like
it's like the Aztecs. The conquistadors are justified in destroying the Aztecs and forcing an end to human sacrifice. That's totally acceptable.
Sure, I'm fine with that. Actually, yes, that is a perfectly good
analogy.
Yep, that is actually that. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, it's okay for Aegon to end the slave labor and liberate the Riverlands from the yoke of Harrenhal. You did not get this book. You did not seem to read it very carefully because Harrenhal is worse than Aegon. Harrenhal is a psychopath. Everybody rose up. The whole of the Riverlands, except for the Ironborn conquerors, rose up and said, "We are with this guy. We're with the dragon guy. Kill this Ironborn asshole."
Please, yeah.
Story of them all. One of the biggest issues with House of the Dragon is the dagger, how they keep trying to tie it all back to the main series. And while I do like some symbolism, some references to the main book series, it gets to a point. And I really don't want Aegon's conquest and all of the death and destruction being justified by prophecy. I really don't want them going into this movie with House of the Dragon and that storyline in mind. I'd rather have them just tell a standalone movie. But I don't know if they're going to do that. Regardless, it's going to be a lot of fun. Just see what they do. And I'm much happier than making this a movie rather than a TV show, because if this was a show, it would have been way too drawn out. But with all that being said, let me know what you think in the comment section about a potential POV swap for the movie. Does that sound interesting? Does that sound potentially better?
I would say no. And I firmly disagree with.
It's weird because he does correctly identify problem points. Like like I said, I totally agree with him. Aegon as the protagonist would suck.
Mm-hmm.
It would be very difficult to pull off, right?
Yeah, it would be. It requires a level of nuance. You would have to make him dryly funny, I think, would be one way of making him likable.
You would functionally have to turn the piece into something didactic, like Henry V is or the Tempest is, where the protagonist, Prospero or Henry V, in their actions is trying to cultivate the environment around them in a way that's good actually, right? Because that's what they do. I mean, granted, again, Henry V does some harsh things, but by the end of the play, he's marrying the Princess of France. He's about to set off on an English golden age, right? And Prospero, even though he manipulates the other characters and he does a bunch of stuff, but at the end of the story, he is, he's saving the day. He's uniting him and his
bloodline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, here we get into the fun bits where
talk about this personal drama.
Yeah.
Personal confrontation. I love it.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. So I was like, I have read Fire and Blood a few times, mainly like specific sections. So we just went over. I feel like I gave a fairly exhaustive list of the numerous problems that would exist if the Dornish became the protagonists. It would be like, you cannot do this. I'm like, if you don't want to, unless you change them radically, if you make the Dornish the perspective of this Aegon's Conquest movie, people are going to want the target. People aren't going to care whose perspective it is. They're going to want the Dornish to be glassed. They're going to be fine with people nuking the Dornish from orbit. So, but yeah, is this visible? Do I need to zoom?
I can see your thing if you.
Yeah, let me get it a little bit.
Zoom.
Yeah, let me make this a little bit. Oh, there.
Oh my, this is interesting.
What is it? Yeah. So, all right. So, kind of the thing that starts this thing off is part of the door. Problem is, it comes to this door is made up of psychopaths who commit far worse war crimes than the Targs do. Like I would say, I would definitely say, like, just the will of wills. Like what he does is like that is worse than anything that Aegon does throughout the entirety of the show of Fire and Blood. Like that. No, that's that. And then we have, since the Wills are psychotic, the whole of Dorne makes a game of cutting up their POWs and seeing how long they last. And the Ullers seem to be utterly evil, even down to the main series. Like that's a remark that Ariane Martell makes, that all of the Ullers are mad, half the Ullers are mad, and the rest are worse. Which means that the craziness of these people has gone on for the whole timeline. They have not changed. They are all psychopaths, probably because they are inhaling sulfur from whatever is in the hellhole. One person does agree this is so true. Imagine if Dorne could control dragons. Targs just burned down entire cities and sent soldiers to pillage Dornish towns. But sure, the Dornish deserves it just because they hacked to death their invaders. The funny thing about this is that leaves a critical detail that's specifically their prisoners of war that they do this to. And it's described as they do it to the stewards and the Castellan. So, which is like, yeah. And then I kind of just, admittedly, this is a long screed, but we kind of go with, yeah. So it takes a special level of psychosis to do what Lord Will did to the Oakharts. Assaulting the bride and the other woman, then castrating the bridegroom while she watches, then selling her into slavery is something Ramsay Bolton would do.
I like when you start going in. I like, again, the best words in the whole the start of a good argument or start of a good point is always not think George intended.
Yeah. But Aegon burned their castles, but I would say that George made the Dornish evil to a degree that Aegon looks better by comparison, even though what he's doing is bad. George, by making the Dornish throughout the course of the various wars of the Seven Kingdoms violently psychotic and dishonorable on a level with Tywin, the Brand Companions, Ramsay Bolton, and the Mountain, gives the impression that they deserved Aegon burning them, which I do not think George intended. So, to that end, making the Dornish protagonists, considering what they're prisoners of war and non-combatants, would be a terrible idea. George fundamentally failed to make the Dornish seem like they were reasonable. He made them look psychopathic in terms of their behavior towards non-combatants as a people, as well as stupid because the Martells abdicate their feudal responsibility to protect their people. In trying to make Dorne able to stand up to the dragons, George made the Targaryens killing the Dornish justified. This is a clear-cut example of George failing to present this in a manner he intended, because this is not a great conflict. This is a guy who wants to establish peace through force against a violent group of Ramsay Bolton level crazies.
Yeah. Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah. Then this one's interesting. I don't know as common as either Pro-Torg just hates Dorne. Like, it's hard to like Dorne in the Conquest era since they are all insane and seem sadistically psychopathic. The response to that one was, the world is full of monsters, and to kill monsters, you must become one. I feel like he walks that back, but that's kind of odd that he says this.
Yeah, that's a weird response. It's like, at that point, like, why are you even like trying to defend them at that point at all if you think that they're all monsters at this point?
Yeah, so my response is, but all George is by making the Dornish crazy, and then having their descendants break the peace after Aegon ended the war, and overall having no regard for the rules of war, it really screws with George's objective of making the Dornish feel justified. The problem seems to be his Vietnam pro-protester background getting in the way, because the Dornish are very similar to the Viet Cong, but the problem is the Dornish should not side with their lords after Aegon. They should have turned them over to Aegon, since they abdicated their feudal responsibilities by not protecting them and by provoking their enemies into increasingly violent attacks by disregarding the rule of old war to their POWs, by raiding non-combatants, and later on by killing enemy general under a field of peace banner, and then screwing with the new king, who is coming in good faith by making him go through a pit of snakes to rescue his cousin after their liege agreed to let him out. George went too far with the Dornish. He went so far in making them do multiple evil acts during this and the next two Dornish wars that the Targs did not do. It comes off in the narrative that the Dornish deserved it because the people there had no redeeming qualities. And I don't think this was George's intention, especially since the Dornish are kind of a utopic state for George, because they're a bunch of free love people as well as practice equal gender primogeniture, which
they're kind of like
them
they're kind of like the Game of Thrones equivalent to hippies, somewhat.
I mean, that's
kind of, except they're murderers, like the Dornish, like they're hardened warrior.
They're still a martial people. Like, they're not like peaceniks or anything. They're like they're slightly more exuberant, and they're more, Jesus fucking Christ. If I have to read another fucking thing about how great Renly is, I'm gonna fucking snap.
Oh, no.
I think maybe it's just that Renly had all the cards to win, and he
and then guess what? He fucking didn't. So fuck him.
Yeah.
So did Sauron. Fuck him. But I have no.
Yeah.
But all right.
Renly is basically he's a bad person. Like,
no, he is. He is
he
a bad
believes
person.
in might makes right.
Yes, yes, exactly. If here, I'll go the even step further. If Stannis didn't exist and Renly was actually like the rightful heir and all that kind of crap, he'd still be a bad person.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
and then go for it.
No, I'm sorry. It's just like that winds me up so bad. It's because these are like the Dornish. These are like relatively minor characters, and like this is actually like obscure background fluff from a terrible book, and blah 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 blah. Renly's like what Renly does is like a core part. Yeah, Renly's like a fully fleshed out person and a core, small, but like, he plays a very core part of the story, right? Like it's important to understand Renly in the context of the story. Failing to understand that Renly's a bad person like speaks to like just complete idiocy. Like it speaks to total moral idiocy, as far as I'm concerned. But I digress.
Yeah.
Yes. The Dornish are awful. The Dornish
Yeah. So my response is George just made ancient past Dorne into a bunch of Ramsay Boltons who just screw with people for fun and torture them because they want to. It's not even a terror tactic. They seem to legitimately enjoy doing it. It's weird because George would ever want us to root for Dorne when their particular sadistic war crimes require a particular level of sadism that makes Aegon, a conqueror though he is, a better candidate, because I would rather have him than psychos like the Will of Will as my overlord. Again, Aegon burning lots and lots of people, but he is not chopping parts off his enemies for fun, making a game out of how long they live, or crashing a wedding and sexually assaulting the bride and her handmaidens and mutilating the groom in front of her before selling the women into slavery. Like, at that point, it's like, no, there's no coming back from that. There's no way of there is no way to come back from that. No, there's no way. That's the point of no return. That's not there's no way. No, they have lost all claims to sympathy or decency. No.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully he goes, holy crap, George. And then the response was, it shows reality that there's no such thing as region that isn't quietly of some terrible acts. Okay. I don't know what the George is even trying to say with the Dornish in this era, because by writing that in, he makes Aegon seem justified and the Dornish are just a bunch of Ramsay Bolton, Euron Greyjoy level psychos that need to die.
Yeah.
They were pretty reasonably furious, and the Targs were the MFs during this war. At the same time, by willing to conquer the sovereign state and being so unprepared. Yeah, they didn't do well preparing for the Dornish counterattacking them. That's just crazy that how they left the Reach completely without defense in its southern part, including High Garden being besieged. The Wills or Ullers are worse than Aegon by a lot. Maybe try not to screw with their lands. This is where it gets fun, and admittedly it becomes slightly more like cordial later on, where it kind of gets into different topic, but it's like, this is really bad.
Was this the same guy who commented on the Three-Eyed Theorist video?
I don't think so. No, that was a different. You mean the? I think this is a different one. I think that this one's an interesting. I just thought that one was interesting. Let me find that. So that was a different one. I've been writing scripts for the Three-Eyed Theorist for a little bit, and it's actually been very fun. I think that it's kind of got an idea of like, he was like, if Lena Velaryon married Viserys and had kids with him, Corlys would be trying to push for his heirs to go on the Iron Throne, and my plan to do that. And I was like, I don't know how he would do that. I don't know how he would come up with a win condition unless he could get his kids on side. But and maybe we could that would be an interesting one to discuss. But okay, so not at all. The Targaryens are far more villainous. I would strongly disagree. Have you read the section of Fire and Blood recently? I don't know what George was thinking, but he made Dorne look like he just copied and pasted Ramsay Bolton and Euron Greyjoy across that kingdom. And then this happens. Not really. The horrible things they did were to foreign invaders and those who fought on their behalf, which makes what they do right and good. And I'm like, I was like,
are you sure with that? You want to go there?
I'm like, really? My assumption was, and admittedly, like my assumption is, the not really was to the. Have you read that section of Fire and Blood recently? Maybe that's true, but it's like, but apparently it's like he copied and pasted Ramsay Bolton and Euron Greyjoy, and that was the not really.
Yes, no, yeah. He's saying not really. They're not really that bad.
Which I'm like, okay. And then it kind of becomes later, like, I would boil this guy's argument down to there are no bad tactics, only bad targets. Very much like Movie Bob. And I was like, when I read that, I was like, no way, you can't actually believe this. So I would read it again. Like, my assumption is, like, I would read it again, that what the will of Will to the people of the Wedding of Alice Oakheart, the general scumminess of the Dornish, is going to make Aegon general audiences want to Aegon to purge them in the same way they would Ramsay Bolton, Joffrey, or Baratheon, or the Freys. Honestly, the Oakheart wedding is way more graphic than the Red Wedding. I don't care. They fight invaders who wish to take their land. It is all justified when it is done to would-be conquerors and oppressors.
Uh-oh.
I was like, that's some post-colonialist brain rot right there.
Oh yeah, that's just.
I'm like,
I mean, there are things that like most people just would draw a permanent line between. Like, I doubt a lot of people would think that would be justified to rape all the Nazi wives, for instance.
I mean, like that's
Like, after the Nuremberg
but
trials.
people are fine with that kind of stuff because people are fine. We're fine with the Soviet Union. I mean,
yeah. Usually, like post, like those who are more so embedded towards like the modern day politics of colonialism justify everything concerning the Soviet Union. I've noticed, even if they do the exact same things that America does, which are just as egregious, if not more so.
no, I'm specifically talking about what I mentioned earlier about the instances of rape going on as the Red Army moved through Germany.
That's what he was. Yeah, I think that too. Yeah. So like I was shocked when I saw that. I was like, so really attacking a wedding and murdering the bride's entire family and guests, castrating the groom, taking turns gang raping the bride and her handmaidens, then selling them into slavery is justified? Like I was like, but you can't. It was kind of like it was kind of like when Mahler was talking with Yezin IRL, where he was like, when Yezin IRL said that Daenerys in the show is a net positive for the world. It's like,
I don't know about that. That's a whole other question of itself.
Yeah, it was kind of a moment like, just you kind of like tug on your collar and be like, dude, do you really want to like go down that route? Do you really want to die on that particular hill? I'm like,
who said this specifically?
Yes and IRL. You remember the Game of Thrones debate?
Wait, was he the guy was he the guy who claimed that Jaime Lannister never cared about the innocent, like, ever? Oh, that guy. Oh, that.
I mean, this isn't even the. I mean, in fairness, neither of this is the worst I've ever seen. There's this one guy on the Reddit, who is
probably
insufferable. Of course, it's on Reddit, and he's just the worst. This is like again, like the Targaryens are fine. It's it's fine that Jaehaerys and I've had long, and I mean, like obnoxiously, like I am like you would be worried about me long conversations with this guy trying to get him it's fine that Jaehaerys thinks that he's a god king. It's the Targaryen, it's fine that Renly is it's fine that Renly regards Brienne like trash. This is a new one where it's like Ned was wrong for killing Garrett because the Night's Watch is a gulag. Just fucking insufferable, morally nihilistic shit.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
But I digress.
Yeah. So, and I was just like, okay, that's a choice. I would say that just killing their invaders, poisoning their wells, hanging, beheading, assassinations, etc., is fine. But Willowville needs to die. That shows a level of psychosis on the same level as the Mountain, Ramsay, Euron, or Joffrey. If what they do isn't justified, what Dorne does is not justified. Let's be consistent here. So
yeah.
It makes Aegon look better because at least he rules the Seven Kingdoms well and seems to be willing to follow the rules of war. And during the Field of Fire, he only killed 4K out of the 60K instead of killing all of them. If the Oakart event happens, people are going to say, we side with the dragons. We don't want this guy or his faction to win. I don't need them to be Ned Stark, just not Ramsay, Joffrey, or Euron. And I would definitely draw a comparison and say they are just as bad. Like, the Dornish are like those characters. They do a lot of the same things. They are doing sadistic war crimes. Then it's just, you must be joking. Aegon followed no rules of war. Aegon was a foreign invading tyrant who ruled through fear. They only returned the oppressors' cruelties and injustice back on them.
Please point me at Aegon's campaigns of mass rape. Please just do that.
Yeah.
And I say this to someone, and I fucking hate the Targaryens. I fucking hate them.
Yeah. Yeah, they are incestuous aliens who are bad people. Like they have like Rhaenyra, bad person. Daemon Targaryen, pretty bad person as well.
Again, Jaehaerys, secretly a bad person, sneaky bad.
Yeah, like he's an insidious bad person.
Exactly.
Aegon the Fourth, really bad person.
Aerys the First, pleasant person, irresponsible ruler.
Yeah, where he lets Bloodraven run as basically a surveillance state.
Yeah, who is also a bad person, or at least a bad ruler.
Yeah. Keep going.
Maegor, horrible person.
Yes, very bad person. Yeah.
Let me go down the line. Aegon the Second, pretty shitty person. And I like the guy. He's a really shitty person.
Yeah.
Who else? I mean, like, again, Aerys Second, obvious. Rhaegar, obvious. Not obvious, actually. That's a fake out. Actually, really like how ambiguous he's written.
Where some people like him, like some people are like ride or die for him, and other people hate him.
I think Rhaegar is one of the few times where Martin actually sticks the landing on a character where it's like he's exactly right. He is ambiguous. It's hard to figure out. It's hard to get a good read on him. And like, you can criticize what he does because I have no problem with him receiving his just fate, but that doesn't make him malevolent, right? It doesn't make him like pure evil.
Yeah, he is functionally a the main bad thing that he does, and it's pretty bad, it seems to be grooming or raping a 15-year-old girl.
Yes. Well, yes. That's yes.
Because there's no in between. Because she was like, I don't want to go with Robert because he's not going to be faithful. Few days later, she immediately runs off with a married man.
Yeah, this is one of those things where it's like, yes, it is actually the responsibility of the adult man to tell the child no, right? And the other thing is, I mean, and this is worth pointing out, right? The other thing that he is guilty of, and he is guilty of this, is when push comes to shove, like he does take up arms for his father, right? He does do that, right? He's not like guiltless in regards to the escalation, maybe not quite the right word, but he's part of the war effort. This is the king and the heir are saying simultaneously, we can do these things. And that's just it.
Yeah. So my response is there's no evidence in the text of him or his allies committing Ramsay Bolton level atrocities like the Dornish do on the Reach and Stormlands. The Dornish are no better than Tywin, Ramsay, or the Mountain. Aegon is at least not torturing his prisoners or non-combatants. I don't really care about the oppressed or oppressor narrative. That's kind of nonsense. Okay. So, not nonsense, and there's plenty of evidence in the text. He is a foreign invading tyrant. Anything done to him or his allies is justified. The cruelty the Dornish committed was perpetuated on those who tried to steal their land, which makes it completely different from the cruelty Ramsay and the Targaryens committed, which can never be justified.
I mean, it's like, it sounds like this is either someone totally captured by,
post-colonialism nonsense.
Yes, exactly. That's well said. Or this guy's just trolling.
I don't think he is. I think he legitimately is a post-colonialist rabbit hole.
I don't
yeah.
think he would. I don't think he would spend this amount of effort trying to justify his position if he was just trolling.
I mean,
I think, and also it doesn't seem like he understands the Targaryen conquest, because the Targaryens don't really steal land. They just establish control, like a centralized, unified order over it.
oh yeah. No, yeah, they don't like this thing. Like it's which one that they don't do what we would literally call colonize. They don't do that, because colonize means that like you bring in other people and you settle.
Yeah,
That's not what happens. He makes the natives just submit to him.
Yeah, he just says, you can live your lives.
You just have to call him the king. Like that's it.
Yeah, you just have to be the king. Don't kill each other. Respect the king's peace. Don't tax your subjects too hard. And the funny thing, and so then we kind of get down to, I only did, and so then we get, it is actually nonsense. The Dornish were likely going to do these sorts of things regardless of what happened if the Dornish wars, with them as the aggressors, after the peace agreement was signed, is any indication, considering just how comfortable they seem to be with mutilating and assaulting their enemies. Stealing their land? Nah. Just saying, hey, new overlords, you won't be treated badly. Honestly, it makes no sense that the Dornish small fort didn't turn on the Martells for prolonging the war. It's all because George is still stuck in his boomer era of being a Vietnam objector. If they accurately portray the Dornish, audiences will be rooting for the Targaryens to burn Dorne to the ground. And I think that's a fairly milquetoast. I don't think modern audiences would accept anything that the Dornish do in this up to a certain point. Like they will not. They will be like, no, turn to ash. Like they it's going to be the same type of deal as Ramsay Bolton. They will hate them just as much, unless they change it, which would be like, you're going to get complaints from George if that happens. Yes, Aegon was trying to steal their land any way you look at it. He is a foreign invading tyrant. They gave him exactly what he deserved.
Well, I mean, I guess it's pretty. I mean, I guess it's pretty convenient. They didn't really. They could give some to him, but they didn't.
They didn't do anything to him. They sent assassins for him, and both times the assassins failed.
Yeah,
because Visenya Targaryen is Arthur is Jaime Lannister level talented with a blade.
Yeah.
The Targaryens burned those who refused them, which is horrific.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's war.
Yeah, it's war. But also, they burn only a small number of combatants. And they specifically target Harren Hoare, who's like one of the worst people.
Yes.
Nobody cares about your ridiculous hype theoretical scenarios. Anything done to a would-be conquering is justified. The Dornish not accepting a foreign ruler's rule makes perfect sense. What doesn't make sense and is not accurately portrayed is the fact that the Targaryens should not have been able to survive the invaders' reign. I would actually disagree. Like, the Targaryens kind of make things better for Westeros in the short, at least.
Should not. I mean, what are you trying to say? That the Dornish is
I don't even understand the argument.
Not after is the fact that Targaryens should not have been able to survive the invaders' reign. Does he mean that they should not have been able to set up a dynasty?
Yes.
Okay. I'll give him this. I think that, but they did, right? And the reason for that is, here's the thing, right? This is one of those things where I don't know that George meant it, but he put it in. The fact that it exists means that, like, he got something right? They succeeded because Jaehaerys sublimated the faith to the dynasty. That's why. That is why.
And also they had nukes. And I think he's saying, and I think he's just saying they shouldn't have survived Aegon. And like, it's hard to fight against that.
Mm-hmm. Who knows?
Yeah, so it's not a theoretical. It's an oversight on George's part due to his political biases, which is a holdover from his Vietnam protester days. At a certain point, they should have just said, "You're not our rulers anymore. You're not living up to your responsibilities of protecting us under your feudal contract." Also, once a certain degree of atrocities are committed, the conquest becomes justified, such as with Harren the Black. With what Dorne does, Aegon looks like a better alternative. It's irrelevant that if he's a tyrant, the Dornish justify him trying to conquer them by their behavior. Honestly, if you were a real tyrant wanted to utterly break the Dornish, he would have done what Rome did to the Jews, but instead he made peace with them.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's not a theoretical because it did not happen. Everyone has biases, including both of us. Nothing Aegon does is justified. He ended the lives of more people and committed greater atrocities than anyone else.
If the scope of our assessment here is like the entire like series of A Song of Ice and Fire, I don't think so.
I mean, like, what the fuck is this? Also, like, what the fuck is Zarban here? Like, he's trying to be conciliatory, and the next moment he's just like saying, like, no, you're wrong.
Yeah. No.
It's also is avoiding the problem with what you've already presented with the Dornish. Like he's deliberately trying to like dance his way around that point and just place more emphasis on the fact, oh yeah, well Aegon was awful, so like we don't have to really think too much about what the Dorne did in retaliation because of what Aegon did due to his position as an authoritative,
conqueror,
like oppression conqueror. Yeah.
And then saying being ruled by foreign invaders is never a better alternative, and no, him being a tyrant cannot be irrelevant. No, he could not have done what the Romans did to the Jews. He had no such influence. That is some ridiculous Nazi, I hate to call it, logic. I'm like,
did you know? I guess he doesn't know what Rome did to the Jews.
I think that Aegon probably could have actually done what the Romans did to the Jews.
If he
really wanted to.
If he really wanted to, yeah, he could have.
And I think that one thing that he could do, the main thing that he would have had to do is scour Dorne to find where they were hiding.
Yeah.
And I think that if he brought the whole of Westeros down and basically just did a grid search, like the fact that all he needs to do is just find the entrances to the tunnels and smoke them out. Because if you kill the airflow and force them out, he could then grab them, kill them, or send them off to Essos and scatter them. And I don't think that anybody in Westeros would have complained about it, because the rest of Westeros is kind of racist against the Dornish. They don't like them to the point where Dornish courage is a massive is considered an insult, a really bad insult.
Oh yeah.
My response is, honestly, it wouldn't be that difficult. All Aegon would have needed to do, if he wanted to simply neutralize the Dornish, is simply kill them or scatter them across Essos. He wanted them to at least continue as a kingdom, or he would have attempted to just exterminate him. We're just expressing a critique of Jorge's work, because clearly he's got a lot of Vietnam hippie boomer biases that make this story less well thought out, because he contrived a rather stupid outcome. He could not have done it, so he tried and failed. He did not have the power to unalive everyone in Dornish. Ridiculous. I actually disagree. I don't think he tried.
It's really funny that he uses the term unalive.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
that's cringe.
It is cringe. It's fucking gross. It's letting imagine letting these kind of programs dictate how you're fucking speaking, right?
It's bending the need of the need of censorship is what that means.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's why I say this guy is clearly down the post-colonialist rabbit hole. like
Gross. It's gross.
yeah. So I honestly think that he could have, but some sense of morality or belief that they had to at least somewhat live restrained him. Oris Baratheon, Oris and the Tyrells, and probably the rest of Westeros would have joined in. Aegon is more of a pragmatist as opposed to Maegor, who just wanted to kill everyone in his path who deemed as disloyal. Aegon at least wanted subjects. The Field of Fire could have been a massacre of all 60k, but instead it was only a 4k, which is a very surprisingly low amount of dead. The main difference is that Dorne's terror tactics make people hate them and want to fight them in order to avenge the wrongs done because they're sick in the head people. Whereas Aegon gives a show of force as well as shows mercy to those who pay ball. Why are we suddenly okay with Bob Shipman level arguments? The response is, if any of your opinions about the unrealistic outcomes and the validity, you would think that exact incident would be one of the most unrealistic outcomes. I do not think that he could. He tried burning them, and if they did not choose to flee. Unaliving an entire population in their own land is more difficult than you think. His chances for doing so were 0. He remains a foreign tyrant regardless.
Okay, like yeah, that's fine. It doesn't change the fact that it doesn't change the fact that Dornish is doing bad things. Like you cannot you can't do anything you want to a criminal, right? That's part of the balance here. You can't just you can't actually murder a criminal. You can execute them with the authority of the sovereign state / ruler / whatever. You can't murder them, right? And then there's levels to this. We understand that, but no, you're not justified in raping random women at their weddings. You're just not.
Yeah,
I like on the eyes of this guy. You can pretty much practice any form of evil against an oppressor. That's completely justified. But God forbid you say the word kill.
Yeah, that's honestly hilarious. And also, there's an element of what is it? Aegon, when the Princess of Dorne, the Princess of Dorne's daughter, comes there, he is the Lord Oakheart, the guy who probably a relative of the people that got the massacre, the Oakheart wedding happened, suggested that the Dornish girl be sold to the meanest brothel in King's Landing till every beggar has his pleasure of her. Or Oris Baratheon said, Oris Baratheon argued that because he had lost his hand, said that Princess Daria should have her hand chopped off before she's sent home to her dad. And Aegon dismissed all of such because Daria had come as an envoy under a banner of peace and would suffer no harm under his roof. That immediately contrasts him with what happens to Daeron the First, where Daeron is murdered under a peace banner.
Yeah.
Yep. So let's keep going with this. Many people hate the Targaryens more than the Dornish. They just refrain from vocalizing it because of the dragons. We'll just have to agree to disagree. I'm most people seem to like the Targaryens, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is even sentiment in the main series where we wish the Aegons were here. Dick Crab, I think his name is. Or there's a bunch of people that are saying we miss the Targaryens. We our lives were better under Aerys II.
Yeah.
And the Tullys love the Targaryens. They're you liberated us. And he also doesn't acknowledge Harrenhal. Harrenhal destroys this argument. Same with Argilac Durrandon. and the Dornish. My response is, I would say he wasn't creative enough or was unwilling to consider destroying the entirety of the Dornish based on what happened during the Field of Fire. In world, most people envy the targets like the High Towers and Lannisters. Several lords rose up to fight for Aenys the First without being asked, since Aenys was a dithering loser like Titus Lannister. And yet, several lords rose to the occasion against the rebels. And the reason why people out of universe dislike the Targaryens more is because they aren't familiar with just how bad the Dornish are. George screwed up, and it's because of his boomer hippie Vietnam era politics skewing his perspective. Could you rework your first sentence? It doesn't cohere together or make sense. He never responds, but then I put this bit up here, so I'll kind of keep going up here. Let's find it. Okay, so let me scroll up and find it. Okay, here we go. Have you even read Fire and Blood? This seems like it's more of a vibes or hearsay based argument rather than an actual source material arguments. You said you didn't recently read it, but did you read it at all? Never said that, and I can guarantee I comprehend this and the book to a greater degree. All I've heard from you is incorrect assertions. It is obviously you know nothing of history or George R. R. Martin's world. And I'm like, okay, now he's resorting to personal, because even though I would say that factually, as we have kind of seen here, I have put forward several very specific elements. So, okay. You said, and I checked, that you hadn't read it recently. I was just making sure that you had read it because you don't seem to at all to engage using citations. You're just making assertions based on a flawed premise that there are no bad tactics, only bad targets. I've read the book multiple times, and I just reject your underlying premise that there are no bad tactics, only bad targets. That is a movie Bob argument, and that is a comparison nobody wants to make. You have not proven what they did was justified, and you haven't actually used specifics from the book to prove it. I have cited specific examples. You didn't. Okay. Hello? Is everybody here?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm still
Okay.
here.
Right. Okay. Crimson, you okay?
He's dead.
Is dead, Jim. Okay. And we keep going.
I think Aruma killed him.
I guess so. Yeah, so let's kind of keep going. You must be reading someone else's comments. It is you who is operating under a false premise. You have proven nothing yourself, only offer ridiculous, unsubstantiated opinions. They gave the invaders what they deserved. Aegon deserves.
Come on. Like, I can't with this. This is just.
He's just saying the same thing using different words.
Yeah, like this is tiresome and silly, and it's just like no. This, I mean, like you're showing better things than me. When I get encounter shit like this, I mean, my answer is like you're just a bad person. Like you don't think about things the same way. You clearly don't have the moral literacy to actually understand why this is bad. Fuck off. Like bad people think this way.
Yeah.
Anyway, I am actually fading pretty fast, actually.
Yeah, let's keep.
So, no, I mean, I can. I think you guys can hang out, and I'll just drop off. I think I'm good for the night.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
don't worry, I'm just talking to you.
Yeah, I think it's relatively quick.
Oh dear.
There's only like 46 comments. Yeah, if you need to drop off, sorry, I should have started earlier. I apologize.
No, it's fine.
I mean, we could break this up into like another part.
Yeah, I kind of want to like just get this out. I do kind of want to get it over with.
No, yeah, you guys get it done, and don't worry, we'll talk another time. All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it'll be interesting because it's just like I've read, and then just what Dornish did was not villainy, but what Aegon did was certainly was. I'm like, I was shocked. I was like, especially since I was shocked when that happened. I was like,
my
like,
word.
wow. Wow.
Well, with that, later,
Rape-
guys.
All right,
Rape
see
is
you
not
later.
healthy. Adios. I would kill 1,000 Targaryens before I let this Dornish position die. It's funny. I am also getting a bit tired. Done.
Okay, fair
And I
enough.
don't
I guess
think-
we'll. Yeah,
I don't think I can
spent a
really
lot of time.
on that side overall.
Yeah,
but
yeah, fair enough. Yeah, we can redo it. We can keep going with this later, I suppose. We'll just have to
I think I'll be
mark our
I'll
spot.
be best.
Yeah. All right. Cool. But yeah, so I just looked at that comment. I was like, no way. You can't, like, no, like, you're dead. Like that you're philosophically like dead in the water. Like, you cannot actually advocate for, and they just say anything is okay. Like, and I think that, like, later on I think they say, like, I actually was like, I actually, like, I'll just kind of put this up as a teaser. Let me find this comment. But later on, it's kind of a, let me find it, because I actually tried to use a comparison. So, like I just said, like, Rob allowed his men to do whatever they want that is morally okay. So, by logic, Tywin is totally justified in what he did, sack of King's Landing. And he responds, exactly. Everything with Tywin, even with Tywin, the motivation and circumstances are too different to make one-to-one comparison. Yes, anything done to the Targaryens brought upon themselves.
God.
Considering Rob's failure and the fate of those who followed him, yes. I was like, no, you can't.
He's too
Like,
far
I just
gone.
like
He's too
I
far
just
gone.
said, yeah, like I just said, like, so, like, and then I just said, let me see. So let's see, where's a bit? Let's see. Okay, where is it? Where is it? Let's see, Rob. Let's see. Yeah. So let's see. Where's that? Let's see, where's the... Let me find it. Let me find it, because... So, that's, like I said, only your incorrect opinions. Yeah. Yeah, so, but yeah. I just am like, I was like, you can't. I'm like, no, you cannot argue that.
Unfortunately, I think he's too far gone.
Yeah, probably.
just hope he doesn't have a wedding of his own.
Hopefully not.
Or visit one.
Yeah, I was like, you can't come back from that. I'm like, there's no justification for that. That's like, no, you can't. No. You cannot. If somebody were to do that, if I honestly think that it does not make sense that the people of the Reach don't rally behind that and say, no, we will make war on Dorne forever for this. We don't care. We want to kill them.
Mm-hmm.
Because like that's the kind of atrocity that you don't come back from.
Like, he reminds me of the kind of people that defend the Dahomey Kingdom, a kingdom that was notoriously known for their slavery. Like, it is so embedded in their culture that you pretty much eliminate their identity without slavery. But simply because they were an African nation, everything they do is justified in comparison to colonialism.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't, you can't really, I'm just like, no, there's no coming back from that.
Point of no return.
Yeah, like that's just like, as well as the fact that I just can't. Yeah, I don't understand why why anybody would put the Dornish as the protagonist of an Aegon conquest movie. That would, unless they drastically change it, they're not going to do it. But yeah, we'll call it good for today. Sorry we didn't get to finish it, but we'll probably do like something quick, maybe like Sunday afternoon or something. Since I've got early morning church, we can just kind of do it, unless we. Yep. Well, we'll see. Anyway, Adios, friends. Bye.
Adios.
One thing before we head out, I actually have created a website. Let me.
Mm-hmm.
Website. Let me actually. Find it. I'm also going to be booting up a shareable market, a shareable marketing app that I'm totally happy to let people happy to let people use, that I just barely made. Let me actually show you guys the author page. I'm still working on it. I need to buy a domain. But this was just the website I made. Admittedly, this is all made with AI. Even the art was made with AI, which I was like, that's not the book covers. It's just like that little bit up here. But yeah. This is my new website. I was like, and so if you want to take a look at my books, this is where you can find. find them. There's links to the Amazon. That way you can easily filter it. So with that being said, see you later, Oaks. Bye.
Adios.